Hey, and welcome back to Woodbury Cottage. And today we're going to use this scrap wood that was left over from building our new fellowship hall at our church. And we're going to make some little gifts to give all the members, each family, as like a memory type gift. And it's going to be this little board, and we're going to paint it and decoupage a scripture on it. And this is how we started. We talked to the guys that were working on the building and asked them to save us all the scraps. And they had a pile of scrap wood. And we just took it and piled it up till we got time to work on it. So here we have a chop saw or a circular saw. I marked each one. Each one is a little different in size. Being careful to keep my hand out of the way. Pulling out that little plug that causes it to lock. Okay, here we go. First cut. And again, that little plug locked again. Okay, let's see how the size. I think that's going to be good. We got some rough edges. We're going to take a sander. I'm checking my size here. This particular card was from the Dollar General or the Family Dollar. I'm not sure which one, but it's called prayer cards. And they had a pack of them for like $1.25. And I believe there were 20 in that pack. So that's going to give me 20 gifts just out of that one pack for like $1.25. Looks good on a 2x4. I only had to trim the top of the cards. And each one of the little prayers were so meaningful and just precious. Measuring one more time. I don't know why I took so much time measuring. I had plenty of wood. But, okay, here we go. We're going to trim it one more time. All right, let's get that little piece of paper. Well, I guess I didn't. Okay, now I'm going to get the little piece of paper. Here we go. I think I've got 3 here that I'm going to cut before I go on to the next step. We wound up making 20 of this size. Oh yeah, the table was wobbly, so I put a little piece of scrap wood under there. Okay. That little tool right there, I'm telling you, that's a good tool. And they're very cheap. You can get them at most of the hardware stores or big box stores. And some of them are plastic, like a yellow plastic. That's really a good tool for a crafter to have. It helps you keep a straight edge. I think they call it a speed square, I believe is what they call it. Alright, let's see how this one's going to look. That must have been good. Alright, see, the more you do, the faster you get. So I'm on to the third one now. Uh-oh, that one's got a crack in it. Are we going to use it? I think I am. We're going to be decoupaging over it anyway. Looks like I'm going to use it. Okay, waste not, want not. Oh, there's a chicken in the background. She knows when I get that camera out. There she is. All right, let's get a cut here. I didn't show cutting all of them, but I do have 3 different sizes. This is the largest one, And the size is because of the card that I'm using. This was the bit larger card, and then I had some square ones, and then I had some rectangular ones. Uh-oh, where'd I go? Oh, there I am. Okay. Are we going to cut a few more? Must be. Okay, let's cut a few more. Now, if you're afraid to use these chop saws, get yourself a little hand saw or a jigsaw, and you can still get the job done. Okay, now we're on to sanding. Now, this is a little machine that I bought at Harbor Freight, and this is actually the first time I've used it for a large project. So I had a little learning curve here. I just took my time because that sandpaper can snatch that block and flip it out into the yard, or worse yet, flip it over my shoulder back there and bust the window out of my house. Okay. But I really like this machine, and it was not that expensive either. Alright, I'm going to show you here. If you hold it on there too long, it'll round off the corners, make a little bevel. See how that bevel is? And that's a real low grit sandpaper, so it's digging into it pretty good. Looks like I like that one. All right, one down. Let's try another one. If you like to do a lot of projects where you're doing 5, 6, 10, 20 of the same thing, I would look into getting one of these. I really, really like it. Russell and I made some welcome signs later in the week, and we used this machine, and oh, it put a beautiful distressing on those signs. But you really got to be careful, don't get your hand near that. And don't wear clothes with loose strings on them, things like that, that can get caught up in that belt. And it has a circular sand on the side. See that little wheel on the side, on the other side? And I didn't practice with it till near the end, but that's a pretty good little tool also. But what I'm thinking is I'll keep the high grit on the belt and get the low grit on the belt, and then get a higher grit to go on that circle back there. That way I can finish at the same time. Do a finish sand on it at the same time. But the circular pad that's on it now is the same as that belt. Look how easy that is. I just love that thing. And you know, I've had it in a box for probably a year. I finally just got the time to get it out, get Russell to help me put it together. I don't know what I was waiting for. That's going to look good. Making easy work out of a repetitious job. I decided right there that I was okay with the rounded edges, so I went for it. and knocked corners off, knocked off the sharp corners. See, the more you practice, the more you learn. Yeah, I figured out holding my hand at the top like that would keep it from flipping out of my hand and keep my fingers away from that sandpaper. But you do have a lot of control with that. I really like that machine. Look how smooth that is. Okay, now we're on to the painting. For this project, I'm just using the some white paint. I think I got that at the Walmart. I didn't really feel like I needed to use chalk paint on this project since it's just only like a shelf sitter. And I was going to be using decoupage over it to seal it anyway, so I didn't use the chalk paint. So what we got to do now is paint one side and all the way around and leave the other side unpainted till it dries. Then when that dries, we're going to flip it over and paint the other side. I think I might have been able to leave that raw wood to decoupage over, but sometimes that if there's any color underneath your paper, it'll come through. So I didn't want to chance it, so I just went ahead and painted it, the whole thing white. It didn't take that long. Waiting on them to dry is what probably took the longest. It was a nice warm day that day. Probably one of the last warm days that we're having for the season, or hot day. I just love painting. It just relaxes my brain. I get to take a break from thinking about everything else when I'm painting. Good therapy. See, I left that one side unpainted. Here I am trying not to get fingerprints all in it. Now, if you're going to do a bunch of these, like maybe a 50 or 60 or so, get that spray gun out and spray them. That'll go a lot faster too. Let's see, I think this is the last one. Then we're going to wait for them to dry. And at the end, I've got all three sizes that I can show you. I just only filmed this one. Made this one for the video. But they're all done exactly the same way. Alright, so now we got all the paint dry, and we're going to do the decoupage. And for that, you just need your Mod Podge, or you can use, some people use the, what do you call it? It's a medium that you can buy at the art center that's just a little bit different than Mod Podge. And you can use a top coat, the Varathane polyacrylic. If you're going to use that poly Make sure you get polyacrylic so it doesn't turn yellow. I like to use the polyacrylic, but today I'm using Mod Podge. This paper's a little bit thick, so I didn't have to worry about bubbles and wrinkles. It did pretty good. It's almost as thick as a postcard, but not quite. I probably could have just used some school glue for this. I didn't even think about that. Could have probably just glued that on with some school glue and then just used the decoupage for the top. Now if you put too much on there, that paper's gonna curl. So don't put too much. I think this is the one that I put too much on and my paper curled. So I had to turn it upside down and let it dry. Now the paper's a little bit bigger than the block, and that's what you want if you can work it that way, because you take the sandpaper and sand the edges off, and it gives it that distressed look like it's made into it. So it's okay if it's a little bit big, a little bit bigger than your block. All right, that was fast. Let's wait for that to dry. See how there's a little edge there? And you just, actually I turned that machine back on, let that machine knock it off, and it did okay. Just tore it right off in a pretty straight line. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you here putting the Mod Podge on the top, but it is better if you wait for that to dry a little bit. Especially with that thicker paper, because it does want to curl once it gets wet. It looks like I'm painting it white, but that Mod Podge does dry clear. So don't let that scare you if you never used Mod Podge before. It does dry clear. Now there are all types of Mod Podge. I'm using the matte Mod Podge on this project. So read your label before you buy it, because there are many different kinds of Mod Podge. Alright, and now here is the final results. See those small ones? I did those with the antiquing wax, but I did them all exactly the same way. And these are going to go to the families in our church as a little memory gift for us building our new fellowship hall debt-free. And what a miracle! Debt-free during this time and when everything's so crazy. God's good. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll find you some scrap wood. Get out there and get you a project going and have some fun. And you might want to do a little gift for this for your little group of friends, or your Sunday school class, or women's group. Just anything you got a need for a little gift for. If you got any questions, just make a little note down there in the comments. And if you have time, hit that like button and subscribe. It means a lot to us. And we'll see you on the next video. Thank you and have a good day.